You know that feeling when you grab a bargain saxophone off a clearance rack, only to discover it squeaks during the first rehearsal and you end up spending even more on repairs? It's a classic case of cheap now, pricey later. And it's why many players hesitate at the checkout screen, scrolling between student models that promise low cost and the professional instruments that look like they belong in a concert hall. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video, I'm going to break down whether the Yamaha YAS 62III in amber lacquer actually saves you from that regret, or if it's just another pricey piece of gear that looks great but doesn't deliver where it counts. First, let's talk about the category you're dealing with. Alto saxophones sit in a sweet spot for a lot of musicians. They're light enough to carry around, versatile enough for jazz, classical, and marching, and they're the go-to for most school bands. The market is crowded. You have entry-level student saxes that are often built with cheaper brass and simplified keywork, intermediate models that try to balance price with a hint of professional feel, and the true professional line that promises consistent tone, reliable intonation, and ergonomics that let you play for hours without fatigue. The biggest mistake I see new buyers make is assuming any sax that looks shiny will behave like a pro instrument. In reality, the neck joint, key posts, and the way the body resonates are what separate a gig-ready sax from one that will need constant tweaking. The Yamaha YAS 62III lands squarely in the professional tier. Its most talked about feature is the professional neck receiver, which gives you a tighter, more responsive connection between the mouthpiece and the body. In everyday playing, that translates to a quicker response when you bite the reed and a more stable pitch when you bend notes in a jazz solo. I've heard a lot of players say that a solid neck joint reduces the wobble they sometimes feel on the low B, and that's exactly the kind of nuance you notice when you're running through a demanding piece like St. Thomas at a jam session. The integrated key posts are another design choice that Yamaha made to keep the key action smooth and the sax less prone to misalignment after years of gigging. Because the posts are built into the body rather than added on, the instrument maintains a more consistent feel across the entire range, which is a real advantage when you're switching rapidly between low and high registers during a live set. Now, the amber lacquer finish isn't just for show. It comes with a matching case that protects the instrument during travel, and the lacquer itself adds a thin layer of corrosion resistance. I've seen students who leave their sax in a damp rehearsal room for weeks. The lacquer helps keep the brass from developing those unsightly green spots that can eventually affect resonance. In practice, you'll notice that the finish doesn't chip easily, even if you occasionally bump the case against a door. That durability matters if you're a college student shuttling the sax between practice rooms, gigs, and the occasional late-night rehearsal at a friend's house. So who should consider the YAS 62III? If you're an advanced high school player who's already comfortable with a student model, and you're looking to step up your tonal palette for additions, this sax gives you that professional edge without the steep learning curve of a custom hand-engraved instrument. College band members, jazz combos, and semi-professional giggers will also appreciate the consistent intonation and the ease of articulation that comes from the well-designed key layout. For people who record at home, the richer harmonic content of the YAS 62III makes it easier to capture a full, warm sound without having to rely heavily on post-production EQ. And let's not forget the resale angle. Yamaha's professional saxes hold their value remarkably well, so if you ever decide to upgrade, you're not walking away with a sunk cost. On the flip side, this isn't the best pick for an absolute beginner. The instrument's weight, while typical for a pro sax, can feel heavy for someone still building embouchure strength. The price point is also a hurdle. You're paying for features that a student model simply doesn't need, like the refined neck receiver and integrated key posts. If you're only playing once a week in a community band, the extra precision might be overkill, and you could end up spending money that would be better allocated toward a quality mouthpiece or a better reed selection. Another practical consideration is that the YAS 62III, like any professional instrument, expects a decent maintenance routine. You'll need to have it serviced regularly to keep the key action buttery smooth, and that's an ongoing cost that some casual players overlook. Let's walk through a day in the life of someone who actually uses this sax. Imagine a college music major named Alex. He has a morning class where he's required to play a classical etude, a midday jazz ensemble that runs through a set of standards, and an evening gig.